Again on politicals, Rivers State government yesterday insisted that the Nigerian Bar Association (NBA) must refund the 300 million naira it received or face a lawsuit. It countered the NBA's claims that the money was an unconditional gift and not tied to the hosting of its annual General Conference (AGC) in the state. The agency, to be held from August 22 to 28, was originally built for Port Harcourt, the River State's capital. And so we have a legal practitioner standing by for the subject matter, NBA and the 300 million naira River State hosting grant. We're having this discussion with Barrister Daniel Ogbe. Good evening, Legal. Thanks for joining us on Signature Evening.
Yes, good evening. It's my pleasure.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. It's my pleasure.
When NBA announced the change of venue for the AGC, it stated that its primary reason is because of the emergency rule that is in place in River State. Then the next reaction coming from River State was that they had to refund the 300 million naira support, hosting support from the state government, apparently from the government, the suspended government, before the Solad took office. But the NBA would quickly counter that claim and say that it was a grant. Does the association regularly receive grants during hosting of AGC in the past?
Anyway, in answering this question, in the first instance, I am a member of the Nigerian Bar Association by virtue of my being a lawyer called to the Nigerian Bar. But I've not held any executive position in the Nigerian Bar Association, in which case I may not be privy as to whether NBA receives, as an association, receives financial support from government and other donor agencies in the course of organizing the annual general conference of the Nigerian Bar Association. Be that as it may be that as it may be. As a matter of fact, I know that by virtue of the workings of the Nigerian Bar Association, that anytime there is any sensitive or event to be organized by the Nigerian Bar Association, that interested stakeholders and institutions will also avail the Nigerian Bar Association of support in the course of embarking on that line of action. In other words, it's not at a place for maybe to come forward in lending financial support to the NBA in the course of carrying into force its mandate. Because I know as a fact that even when the various local branches that make up the Nigerian Bar Association do organize what we refer to that even private men of goodwill do render financial assistance, at times solicited, at times unsolicited, in support of the activities of the Nigerian Bar Association. Like, I know as a father by virtue of being a member of the Enugu branch of the Nigerian Bar Association, that the last law week we organized in Enugu State, from the information made available to us in the course of the appraisal of the concerned law week, it was sponsored solely from the purse of the Enugu branch of the Nigerian Bar Association, as opposed to what used to be the case in time past, when apart from the financial base of the association, you have third parties who normally bankroll such events. So it is not out of place, in as much as I have noted earlier, that I am not an executive member of the Nigerian Bar Association. I have never occupied any leadership position in the association before now. But to the best of my knowledge, the answer I gave represents the true state of affairs as far as the Nigerian Bar Association is concerned.
What if the NBA refunds whatever fund that was given them from the coffers of the River State government? I mean, if they said they don't do again, won't the money be refunded and all of this will be rested?
taking a look at the ambit of the money given to the Nigerian Bar Association by the River State government, admittedly, I am not privy to the transaction that took place. But by virtue of the nature of that relationship, that money could be viewed as a gift in the true sense of it. And the fact that the money was given by the government, legitimate government of River State, is not a condition precedent that the annual general conference must be hosted in Port Harcourt, River State. Even by virtue of being a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, for instance, I also paid what we call practicing fee for the year 2025. I have paid mine just like most Nigerian lawyers, or better still, many Nigerian lawyers. And what the argument the River State government is now trying to push forward is akin to saying that because I am domiciled in Enugu State, because my practice base is in Enugu State, then it's either the annual general conference is hosted in Enugu State, or I'll be entitled to a refund of the money which I paid as practicing fee. Because apart from the support, financial support being gotten by the Nigerian Bar Association from third parties, ordinarily an event like the annual general conference is to be organized from the financial arsenal of the Nigerian Bar Association, and the finances of the Nigerian Bar Association are also to be raised from the contributions made by members. So it doesn't resonate with logic what the current government, or should I even refer to it as government, what the current administrator, the current illegal occupant of the seat of power in River State is trying to do. It's akin to, doing the impossible. If there's anybody that should even raise this issue, it should be a legitimate government. So the first point of departure is what we refer to in law is the question as to the rights of the person occupying the seat of power in River State to even make this demand in the first instance. Because you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. You cannot be directing the NBA to reform money when in the first instance your existence in office is manifestly unlawful and illegal. So that's the first point of departure in this entire argument that has occupied the media space for the past 48 hours.
Now, now that you have mentioned something about you being an Enugu lawyer and not looking like you're biased, what are the lawyers residents in River State saying about all of this? Are they in tandem with the decision of the leadership of the NBA as regards the change of venue?
Definitely, you shouldn't expect a unanimous embrace of the step taken by the NBA. Moreover, no matter where you decide to host the annual general conference in a given year, there are those who, for one reason or the other, will not be comfortable with a particular environment slated to host that particular August event. Because in the first instance, there are some factors that are normally put into consideration before deciding the environment. When I mean environment, the state or the federal capital territory, as the case may be, that we host the annual general conference. Take a look at the infrastructural base of that particular environment. So having said that, the fact that this particular annual general conference, earlier scheduled to hold in River State, has been moved to Enugu State, I know as a fact that men and women of goodwill who are members of this profession, who actually are uncomfortable with the illegal regime that is in existence in River State, will not have any problem having this annual general conference take place in Enugu. It's a rotational practice. It's a rotational event. So there is no hard and fast rule to it. If not because of this development, this unfortunate development that is playing out in River State, most Nigerian lawyers will not have any problem going to Port Harcourt to participate in the annual general conference. So it was moved to Enugu State because of the unfortunate development taking place in that state. So many lawyers, to the best of my knowledge, going by my association with my colleagues, we don't have any problem having the event moved at least out of River State, because insisting that the annual general conference will take place in River State, of course, we amount to an indirect acceptance of the illegality that is going on there. I know some persons may be quick to say that if we have admitted or agreed that the persons in place asserting to be occupying leadership position in River State, they are impostors. Then why won't we refund the money that has been given to NBA as a gift? And in that regard, I will say that there are two issues. One, we have to take a look at the issue of law. We have the issue sentiment, and that issue of law is whether in the first instance, the NBA as an association is under any obligation to return money that has already been given to it just because River State no longer hosts the annual general conference. Then, secondly, if that question is addressed, the second issue will now be that if at all there is any reason that will make it imperative that the money, the 300 million naira, should be returned, then that should be demanded by a legitimate government, not by the persons who are masquerading as leaders and are impostors. But to a great extent, I'm even happy with what is playing out, because this will not be a wake-up call. This will not be an avenue for the NBA to now call attention to what is playing out in River State. Because as far as I'm concerned, the NBA has condemned the illegitimate, I wouldn't even refer to them as government, illegitimate individuals who have been installed there by the president, and they claim that they are exercising leadership functions there. So it's now high time, rather, NBA started checkmating the activities of the impostors in River State. So it's a blessing in disguise. What is playing out is a blessing in disguise. So by and large, the sole administrator, whatever he's called, does not have the local standing to even make this demand in the first instance. He lacks the requisite local standing, the requisite foundation to make this claim in the first instance. Rather, he should be seen to be mute. He shouldn't say anything about River State. That is my own opinion. He shouldn't. The sole administrator should just mind his business. He should focus attention on carrying into force the directives being given to him by the president who appointed him in a manner which is at variance to the constitution. If the NBA should accord any attention to what the so-called sole administrator is doing in River State, it will not be an indirect support to an action that negates the principle of rule of law. Because NBA as an association is an association that professes to be champions, that professes to be interested in championing the rule of law. So, according any attention to what is playing out in River State, or according any attention to the activities and demands of these impostors there, we are meant to giving legitimacy to an illegitimate establishment.
Okay, considering the fact that the River State government is saying that this money is a grant, and NBA is saying that this is a gift, why didn't NBA go through a proper documentation in order not to go through financial problems like this?
Anyway, I know as a father that in my own local branch, because there's a way the Nigerian Bar Association is structured. What obtains at the local level to a great extent is also what obtains at the national level. From my personal experience as an active member of the Nigerian Bar Association in the Enugu branch of the bar, at the end of any given exercise, the organizers of that particular event are called upon to render account. And you know the way lawyers behave. Lawyers to a great extent are usually meticulous in ascertaining the manner in which funds, handed over to their colleagues are utilized. So NBA is an association, it's a distinct association on its own. It owes nobody any obligation, save for its members and of course the law, because we all are subservient to the law. So the issue of calling on NBA for proper documentation, I believe there's proper documentation for whatever. If not, the question of the amount of money that was given to NBA wouldn't have arisen in the first instance. It was documented. That's how we now know, or that's how the government, that's how some persons are now coming forward requesting that the sum of 300 million naira be refunded. Secondly, the question is this: did the NBA go cap in hand begging for this money? Even if NBA did the NBA force the legitimate government of River State to release this money? The answer is no. Then automatically, those who are raising issues out of the whole thing, they should share their sword. The most important is that the money will be used in organizing a very fruitful conference for Nigerian lawyers. So my own is that money, if it's still in the coffers of NBA, it should be well utilized. It should be utilized judiciously. Because even if the event was hosted by River State, other lawyers from other parts of Nigeria would have gone to River State to use that money in having a well organized annual general conference, which will be for the betterment of lawyers and society at large. So let that same money be utilized in Enugu or wherever. It's not about being hosted in Enugu. And if you make inquiries, if you embark on investigative journalism, you discover that even when this event has been hosted in time past in other parts of Nigeria, there are sponsors, good-spirited Nigerians who also released funds to the Nigerian Bar Association in seeing to read that such an event was a success in their respective terrains. So it's not something that is strange. The only thing is that to a great extent, I know that the River State government may have lost one or two things by virtue of having this event moved out of River State, because there are some collateral blessings that come with hosting the annual general conference. I now say far that even those who are in the tourism industry, that they do make enormous pecuniary gains from having this event hosted in the given environment. So in that regard, to a great extent, the River State government, the legitimate River State government must have invested that money with the hope that when the annual general conference is when the event takes place in River State, that indirectly that the benefit associated with same will also be enjoyed by the people of River State. But it's a yearly event. Maybe at the end of a stay in office of this illegal community people in River State, when through democratic cultures return to River State, you never can tell. By next year, we may decide to go to River State. In which case, they can now say, the legitimate government can now say, that money we gave to you for last year. We also appreciate we don't have the financial wherewithal to dole out more money this year. So that will still not make the annual general conference not to go on. Rest assured that with or without financial support, that the finances of the Nigerian Bar Association is enough to put in place a decent annual general conference. In as much as I admit that when you have enough funds in place, you may not have a better or well-planned annual general conference. That is the reality on ground.
I know that the venue changing to Enugu will also mean that you are going to get more support, Enugu state government. My point now is, would this not set some sort of a precedent that in the future, if NBA is not at home with some location, even after having receiving funds from such states that should have hosted the event, they could just move even with the funds? Is that not going to be the case in the future?
No, not at all. NBA is a responsible association. It is not a perfect association. I don't say this because I'm a lawyer, not at all. I don't. In fact, there are even some ethical issues surrounding the entire transaction. But law and morality, they are poles apart. So I'm not taking this position because I'm a lawyer, not at all. But if you take a stock of past annual general conferences organized by the Nigerian Bar Association in this country, the association is usually predictable and responsible as to its as the venue where it is to host its annual general conference. But this development of shifting the venue from River State to Enugu State was fueled by the unconstitutional community-made government or unconstitutional community-made establishment in place in River State. So whenever whenever there's a cogent reason that would necessitate the changing of a venue of an annual conference, rest assured that lawyers will not have much problem with that. You should have known that by now, believe me, that if the organizers of the annual general conference of the Nigerian Bar Association, if they had insisted that the event will take place in Port Harcourt, many lawyers will have boycotted the same. Many lawyers who have boycotted, many lawyers who are not comfortable with the illegality going on in River State who have avoided. In fact, many lawyers may even intended to even take the Nigerian Bar Association to court. I can tell you that. So, and it wasn't a decision taken by a single individual. The organizers of this event and the leaders of the bar and the leaders of the various branches of the bar that make up the Nigerian Bar Association, they sat down and they critically examined the illegality taking place in River State. And that's why they now decided that it should be antithetical to the tenets of the Nigerian Bar Association for this association to now go to River State, where there is in place an illegality, where there is in place an unconstitutional establishment, and they will now host our annual general conference. So it's an indirect protest, and I commend the leadership of the Nigerian Bar Association for taking that bold step. So it's not as if we operate at our whims and caprices. No, we don't operate that way as an association. We don't operate that, but let's say that there is what we call force majeure in law. Maybe there is a place, an environment slated to host the annual general conference, and an earthquake takes place there. Automatically, this is a situation that is not envisaged, in which case we will have to look for another environment, that we host the event. So that's what played that in the case of River State. After, even before now, we've been to Port Harcourt on several occasions for the same event. We've been to Port Harcourt severally. In fact, it got to a stage that many lawyers even said, complained that it seems that the annual conference is being rotated among three environments, being Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. And so, like in Enugu, ever since I think the year 2003, this is the first time it's now going to be hosted by Enugu State. Ever since the year 2003, if I'm right, more than 20 years ago.
Okay, I don't know. I wanted to establish something. I wanted you to be clear on something. Is it on ground of morality, issue of security, or for political reasons that the NBA is pulling out of River State for the venue of your AGC?
No, to the best of my knowledge, not based on issue of security or morality, but based on issue of law, not morality or security, because with the presence of the legitimate establishment there now, we have been told that there is reasonable security in the state. So it's not about the issue of security. But the point is that the impostors in River State, they are operating in a manner that is at variance with the Nigerian Constitution. The Nigerian Constitution is clear to the effect that Nigeria must be governed in accordance with democratic norms and ethos. Agreed. Section 305 of the Nigerian Constitution has empowered the government of Nigeria in some instances to declare a state of emergency. But that power does not include what is playing out in River State, the situation whereby the president will wake up and suspend the democratically elected governor, and thereafter appointed a sole administrator. And the sole administrator has gone further in appointing his own sole administrators in the various local government councils that make up River State. So what is going on is a case of manifest illegality and unconstitutionality. So NBA decided to boycott River State, to avoid River State, in order not to lend any tacit, or better said, implied support. That's illegality. So on grounds of law, it's as well as telling NBA going there will now be akin to NBA supporting change of government through unconstitutional means. In fact, I even expect that by now that NBA should have made a nationwide broadcast, that there should be a nationwide order, even if it's in River State or across Nigeria, that all courts, lawyers should boycott all Nigerian courts until that illegality is addressed. And as I said earlier, I'm happy with what is playing now because NBA may now be more proactive. Every reasonable step should be taken in calling that illegality going on in River State to order. So NBA, to the best of my knowledge, decided to avoid River State now in order to send across an indirect message both to the president of Nigeria, who appointed an imposter in River State, and the imposter and other impostors, other sub-impostors there working with Mr. Abbas, that they will not give any direct or indirect support to illegality in the name of the president activating the constitutional provision on a state of emergency. So that is it. That's why I said earlier that in the first instance that Mr. Abbas does not even have the legal standing to even talk. I'm surprised. I wouldn't know what emboldened him to even raise this issue. But I don't blame Mr. Abbas. You know, the president has been perpetrating a lot of illegalities in the country. And that's what now emboldened Mr. Abbas. That's what now gave him the effrontery to start the Nigerian Bar Association, an illegal occupant of a position. So honestly, I'm not happy. Because I'm happy that some other lawyers have taken up this issue. But ordinarily, Mr. Abbas should be dragged to court. If I had the local standing as a lawyer, I pay my practicing fee. I'm considering even taking him to court for making that comment. I'm considering taking Mr. Abbas to court. Because it's an insult to me as a person for him, for an illegal occupant of a seat. Because I'm a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. And I pay my dues for him. So for Mr. Abbas to now say that, to now call for a refund of that money, he's now challenging my existence as a lawyer in Nigeria. So he has no right to do that. He should face his illegal business he's doing with his master who appointed him. He should concentrate in River State. He should do that.
Okay, as we conclude, of all the states in Nigeria, you just said that for over 2 decades, the AGC has not been hosted in Enugu. Is there a reason why Enugu is now the choice?
Truth be told, even before what played out in River State, in unofficial circles, it has been mooted that Enugu will have hosted the AGC, Annual General Conference, come 2026, before this on a state development took place. You know, there's this politics of hosting an Annual General Conference. In the first instance, you have to look at the infrastructural base of an environment. Secondly, the governor of a given state has to indicate willingness in hosting the event. So no matter the interest you indicate as a government, or better still as a governor of a state, to have your state host the Annual General Conference, you also have to take a look at the infrastructural base of your state. Because this is a very large event that I can tell you that we have some African presidents in Enugu State come August this year. Because some presidents of some African countries, they do participate in the National Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association. So, with the emergence of Mr. Peter Mba, who is a lawyer, you know, and going by a few infrastructural developments taking place in the Enugu State, it didn't come to some persons as surprise that when this development played out, that it got to Enugu State. As said, considering the fact that it's been a long time, Enugu last hosted this particular event.
Okay,
and at least there is in place few infrastructure uplift in Enugu State. You talk about the International Conference Center, which is on the verge of being completed, even though it has been commissioned by the president. And I reasonably believe that the facility may serve as one of the facilities to be used because of that Annual General Conference.
All right, thank you, Barrister Chukwunonso Daniel Ogbe, for lending your voice to our subject matter on Politicals and Signature TV this evening. We appreciate you, Barrister.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.